Hey, what's up everybody? Jukem here. Welcome back to another Nuzlocke video, where this time I will be playing through Pokemon Alpha Sapphire with only cool Pokemon. It's important to establish what I mean by cool, as this is an opinionated term for a run like this. I could include Salamence because he's cool, while someone else may decide on Grumpig, as you all just remember that this guy exists. Luckily, the Hoenn games have their remakes possess Pokemon contests, which have 5 types of categories: beautiful, cute, clever, tough, and of course, cool. Every move in the game is programmed to have one of these types for contests. So along with the hardcore Nuzlocke rules shown here and in the description, the Pokemon eligible for this run are based on if their final evolution has mostly cool moves in their Aura's level up moveset, as I found that to be the most objective way of looking at it. I excluded TM, Tutor, and Egg moves because that would be us humans influencing these beautiful creatures by making them something they're not. These are the Pokemon that will be available to me in this challenge. Something to note is that the Pokemon who tied with another contest type were still allowed. They are simply multi-talented in more than one field, and why would I dare judge them if not only for jealousy? That said, an exception was made for stone evolutions that get their moveset reduced, since that just feels right. But also that means I sacrifice Starmie, who has 2 cool moves, for Shiftry. Definitely a loss for me, especially since Shiftry, along with Zangoose, are Omega Ruby exclusives. I will also not be including Pokemon available after Kyogre's defeat due to laziness, but also I wanted to try a harder run, though it's still a fair amount of options. So receiving a bunch of new options that can make the run more of a breeze didn't interest me much. Who knows, if I return to these games with a mono-type run, I'll probably consider it. Let me know your thoughts on that. But for now, let's get started as we usually do in Generation 3. In the back of a moving van, hoping that mom's exercise equipment doesn't crush me into a bloody paste. With mother's weights and my conscious body back in Littleroot Town, which is looking a bit 3D this time, we win the trust of the professor's daughter May thanks to our Chad physique. Maybe mom's a bit jealous that her son receives more attention than her, but my attention is on which starter to choose. Mudkip isn't available to us, leaving us with Trico and Torchic. As a Sceptile main in Pokken, I choose Torchic. Not only has it been more than a decade since I last picked non-Trico in Gen 3, so it's a nice change of pace, but Nuzlocke have shown me the animalistic side of the Pokemon world, and I can't handle another lizard's demise. I don't trust myself that much, even if I think Sceptile is cooler than Blaziken. This is also a good time to mention that attacks that aren't cool for contests are still allowed. If not, I wouldn't have gotten past this Poochyena, since Trico and Torchic don't start off with a cool attack. Plus, like I mentioned, we have us some multi-talented little guys, which is pretty cool in my book. Anyway, we name our Torchic Ace, and our rad little journey begins. We do have a scare battling May, but luckily my foresight to level up saved me from resetting the game minutes into the run. Our first eligible encounter after receiving Pokeballs is a male Ralts on Route 102. Gallade is cool enough to qualify, though Gardevoir isn't, so I should mention that I first found a female Ralts. However, since this one technically isn't allowed because I cannot evolve it into Gallade, I allowed myself to reroll until I found a male one, which was the one right after. Saves me time having to reset the game, and we're trying to have fun here first and foremost. This was also why I chose Alpha Sapphire, so I could have Ralts right away and not get a C-Dot instead. I could get Nuzleaf later on, but that means skipping on Ralts for a bit, and it makes trouble for other encounters on future routes. But anyway, that's the bulk of the beginning. For the rest of our pre-Roxanne catches, we have joined us Sky the Tailo on Route 104, Bello the Whismer in a random cave, and Swift and Nincada on Route 116. I used the Pokénav mechanics to see if I was able to find some of these guys with egg moves, since that's an option. However, the best I got for Nincada was Gust. This is Nincada's entire egg move list. I want you all to realize that there is a rock type gym coming up, and anything else here would have been more useful. On the bright side, we still have a healthy group of 5 gnarly rock stars. Unfortunately, not related to deaths or anything, but I forgot to start recording here for a short while. I had streamed this run, but for some reason, Twitch didn't save the VOD of the stream into a past broadcast, so I'll have to improvise footage during the fight with Roxanne. But also, unfortunately, I ran into Hiker Clark while grinding, who has 2 Geodude. The first was a breeze with some of Zen's confusions, but the second, tougher one brought the pain train. Apparently, Geodude gets rollout this early on, and we don't have the best options for fighting rock types so suddenly, which makes my choice of Torchic instead of Trico even more questionable. So as a failure of simple planning for the early game, Zen was unable to defeat the Geodude quick enough before the spherical rock rolled at me and built up more power, forcing me to switch to save Zen's life. And this is where everything goes bad. Bello, trampled. Swift, steamrolled. Even little Sky was crushed by the weight of a small boulder. 0 rollout misses. But It's my fault for beginning a battle I knew I'd struggle with, and this wasn't even the gym leader. I am sorry, you three. You all would have been the swiftest lads if not for me, but now the skies are only filled with your bellows of pain. We make it out from there, but fighting Roxanne was going to be incredibly tough even if our squad survived, so our team will have to get pretty lucky to not have a most embarrassing wipe this early on. The battle begins with me sending Zen out against Roxanne's Geodude. Confusion is all I really have, so I go with that and do over half HP. And then Geodude misses a Rock Tomb. This crucial miss might save the run, as another confusion shatters the stoned Dude Bro. Now comes Roxanne's signature Nose Pass. I stick around for a turn to confusion it for minimal damage before taking a heavy hitting Rock Tomb in return. Since the AI loves speed lowering moves specifically for that effect, Nosepass should go for a tackle now, so I fire off one more confusion and indeed take a tackle that leaves Zen very low. I then swap the ace on another tackle. We use Sand Attack to lower Nosepass's accuracy, since this is pretty much the only way of me to conceivably win. Using the power of RNG, Nosepass ends up missing her first Rock Tomb. Another Sand Attack gets into the crevices of Nosepass's closed eyes, granting another missed Rock Tomb to our benefit. At this point, we have to start damaging this thing, with Ace landing many embers to weaken this gal, who eventually does manage to connect a Rock Tomb. Ace barely survives, but we are still faster than her, meaning she'll continue using Rock Tomb instead of weaker tackles. Roxanne does decide to heal at one point with a potion, though many misses occur, allowing us to put the Nosepass back in the red. But as great as it would have been to get out of this deathless, Nosepass had upgraded her contact lenses, letting her put our Ace down with a Rock Tomb. I wish to use something other than Trico for once, so I must apologize to little Ace for not giving him his chance to shine. And there goes fighting type option number 1. Luckily, Zen comes in clutch by being able to outspeed Nosepass and finish her off with confusion, defeating Roxanne on this first attempt somehow. If there is anything to say about this moment, it's that Sand Attack strats were the ace up my sleeve. Walking out of Rustboro Gym, I had a moment of fright when realizing I'd have to fight a mandatory Aqua Grunt with a Poochyena, before remembering that this was Gen 6 and Zen has Disarming Voice. Now that would have been the most embarrassing run ender. A Ralt's unable to take down a baby hyena because it's too much of a malicious pupper for mind games to affect it. Reaching Dewford, we're able to get some more encounters thanks to the cave and the old fishing rod. Please welcome to the team Dog the Magikarp from Dewford Town, Silver the Goldeen who was stuck upside down in Petalburg City, and Acro the Zubat in Dewford Cave. All of whom will hopefully survive past Gym 1, and they sure will. Zen has seniority equal to a toddler compared to the others' baby minds, so we have him sweep through Brawly's entire gym, and Brawly isn't much of an issue either. Zen's quadruple resistance to fighting enables him to work smarter by working harder with confusions and disarming voices that decimate the uncool Machop and Makuhita. He even crit the Machop to send a message, probably via telepathy or something. This gets us a refreshing breather for Gym Badge number 2. We then need to track down a man named Steven Stone, who's probably just playing with rocks in Dewford Cave. I approach him, gazing upon the ancient mural, and as he turns around, our eyes locked, I realize I have a natural affinity for him. His stylish hair, his gorgeous eyes, and a fit that had me in pure awe. I could only assume he had the personality to match, and that rang true. He was kind enough to explain our world's history, gift me a TM of his favorite move, and even recognize that my Pokemon and I's might is enough to become champion. He's wonderful. Too bad I heard he's taken, so now we're headed to Slateport to beat up Team Aqua, who apparently did pay to get inside this museum. What kind patrons? Upon arriving there, we head up to Route 110 briefly to try and catch an Electrike. We could also find Magnemite and Minun from Horde battles here, but using the Pokénav we can secure Electrike, who we named Splash. Magnemite we can get much later, but I am thankful to be missing out on Minun, so we finish beating Team Aqua and deliver a man his goods, which is usually where the city's use would end. However, when leaving, we get dragged into the pop star Lycia's Pokemon contest interview. She saw the potential I possessed. Knowing that I am the epitome of cool, she gives me a contest outfit in hopes of making my debut, which we will be doing because after Silver struts his fishy stuff on stage and wins in a spectacular landslide, a Pokemon breeder hands me a stylish Pikachu. Stone will be an invaluable team member for the future, and it's all thanks to a random trainer who became a fan of me and my goldfish. It's also around this time that Zen evolves into Kirlia and Dog evolves into Gyarados, just in time for May. While this fight with her is known for being one of the toughest fights in the original games, we handle her very well here thanks to basic type coverage for all 3 of her Pokemon. Looking pretty good, guys. Just in time to make it to Mauville for our next badge. We gotta teach Wally a lesson on how being too tryhard is very uncool, so I have my giant water serpent bite his cabbage-headed child. It was very nutritious, though Watson's electric types are still a bit unhealthy for dog. Unfortunately, the electric we got didn't have lightning rod, so we can't just bypass every electric type attack in this gym. But do you know who does have lightning rod? Wait, do you have lightning rod? Stone the Rockstar Pikachu, my saint for this gym. Beginning our fight against Watson, we lead with Dog while the electrician sends in his Magnemite. One reason to be afraid of this fight is Volt Switch, so a Pokemon like Gyarados is able to easily bait it as I immediately switch to Stone for a special attack boost thanks to Lightning Rod. And from here on out, we're done actually. It's a full-on Electro Ball sweep. Thanks to the Metronome item that you can buy from someone at the top of Mauville, Stone's Electro Balls are dealing 20% more damage for each consecutive use. As this is the only move I would want to use in this situation, Stone just becomes more of a beast the longer the fight goes on, and Watson's Pokemon can't do much damage in return. Even potential rollouts wouldn't be scary in comparison to that Geodude that still haunts me from way back. Voltorb doesn't even go for it, instead delaying the inevitable with special defense boost from Charge and a Super Potion. And since Stone is stealing the show right now, it's a good time to say that for this challenge, I will be sticking with Rockstar Pika, since it is the cool contest outfit. Pikachu and Raichu do qualify for this challenge nonetheless, so it's mostly just wanting to stick with a theme for this outfit. Also, this fight really makes me wish that Emerald Teens were used in these remakes. Roxanne and Brawly were whatever since they're early on, but Watson not having his signature Manectric just feels wrong. Anyway, through the Stone Onslaught, we pelt one last Electro Ball to finish off Watson's Magneton and secure us our third gym badge. It felt really good being able to use an obscure item like the Metronome as well, which will be a decent item for Stone until we find the Light Ball after the 6th gym. We also get the TM for Volt Switch for our allies that are full of Spark. Nice! Having swept the Electric Gym with nothing but a freaking Pikachu, we're able to get another encounter as we make our way to stop Archie, a Skarmory. I always found this Pokemon very cool, though never really thought about it much as for why. It's a fun looking metal bird, what more do you honestly need? But this challenge is going to give me a great reason to find it cool. Welcome to the team, Talon. Also, real quick, can we talk about how much Wally left his family right after he decided to go home, which is totally uncool? Steven would never, unless he had a good reason, like identifying certain red substances in the rocks of the earth. Oh, that's just the subscribe button. I hate always asking, but if you are enjoying the video, please consider subscribing, if you'd like of course. And let me know which Pokemon you find to be the coolest down below. I am always a sucker for Sceptile and the sick leaf blades he has on his arms. So, now we're heading toward an active volcano, which is probably where you could actually find a lot of red substances. How about that? This is where we face Archie. It's nothing to write a note about, but while getting there, Acro evolved into Golbat and then into Crobat one level later. Splash also evolved into a Manectric. These two will be irreplaceable from here on out, and they help us take care of Team Aqua. This brings us to Lava Ridge Gym, which has a much easier puzzle in this game than in 2D. That's where we met the strongest fire user of all, Battle Girl Sadie and her Metatite. Now, I choose Zen for this fight, right? His typing beats both of Metatite's stabs, right? So when this Metatite sets up a Meditate, I immediately assumed Zen could handle it. Looking back, Watson and Flannery's gyms are known for Pokemon not of that gym's type to still have an attack of that type. This design choice escaped me for a second, so Zen ended up being on the receiving end of a +1 pure power Fire Punch. And there goes fighting type option number 2. Zen, I wish you the best in finding that Dawnstone in the Great Beyond. With the emotional toil of registering the thought that none of my first 5 Pokemon survived, things heat up with Flannery. She starts out with Slugma, while Cool Contest Star Silver makes her gym battle debut. Goldeen isn't the best Pokemon, but I think he's neat. Neat enough to one-shot both Slugma and Numel with a single Water Pulse apiece. With those two out of the way, the real threat, Torkoal, comes in. Silver lands a Water Pulse that does just under half, while in return, Torkoal delivers a critical hit overheat that almost knocks Silver out. The Goldeen sweep sadly ends here, as I switch to Dog, who takes a Body Slam quite well, even without Intimidate going through due to White Smoke. We then take out Torkoal with a Dragon Rage, defeating Flannery for a very easy 4th gym badge. Gotta give props to my 2 watery dudes who handled her pretty well. These battles have been much easier since Nosepass, though that crit on Silver made watching the HP bar very scary for a moment. There isn't anything between the 4th and 5th badge, but we did go to the desert resort to catch a Sandshrew. I named him Duster, and he, in his evolved form Sandslash, will be joining us for our fight against our father in place of Silver, who is sparking a new sensation in the contest world as we speak. Getting to Norman, Mom is probably crying in the background, but the battle begins without delay. Norman leads with his first Slacking while I bring out Dog for Intimidate to lower Slacking's attack. Slacking wants Dog to be lazy with him by going for a yawn, as Dog's Dragon Rage seems to be hitting for the 3 to 4 hit KO territory. Not wanting Dog to go asleep next turn, I switch to Stone during Slacking's truant turn. Stone then proceeds to carry once more via Dig, which avoids a retaliate. By being faster and becoming invulnerable on the Lazy Gorilla Sloth Thing's attacking turn, Stone is able to chip away at his health by striking during Truant. Stone is able to repeatedly do this to chip him bit by bit. This does come at the cost of ruining my dad's flooring, but he should have known such possibilities could happen when he decided to run a gym instead of being with his wife. When Slacking is low in HP, I don't know if a Hyper Potion counts as a turn for Slacking's ability, so I utilize Volt Switch to strike for minimal damage and swap to Splash. Stone is a frail lass after all. We then use Volt Switch again with Splash, which brings Slacking back down to the red thanks to a critical hit. I go to Dog, who could cushion a blow fairly well thanks to another Intimidate, but Slacking just goes for Yawn again, so it's a non-consequential switch back to Splash, who defeats Slacking with another Volt Switch. I send in Talon for his debut battle as Vigoroth comes in. I need Talon out, since he is the safest bet I have when it comes to Retaliate, a normal type move that doubles in power if a user's Pokemon had fainted the turn prior. But Norman is weird, instead opting to go with Feint Attack for a whole 6 damage. Talon's Metal Claw attacks in return, dealing about a third of damage. Vigoroth then goes for Encore. Buddy, we were doing Metal Claw anyway, but thanks for boosting my ego. Another Metal Claw after another weak Feint Attack brings Vigoroth down. Now comes the higher leveled Slacking. He uses Feint Attack again for some reason instead of Retaliate as we land a weak Metal Claw. This turn was to wait for Truant as Stone comes back in for free to start her dig shenanigans once again while making more holes in this expensive flooring. She dodges Retaliates and Chipaways left and right, eventually leading to a Slacking with red HP. I figured a Volt Switch would take him out, but he barely hangs on. We still have a safe switch via Talon, who takes a Retaliate. Now that would have been way more damage than Feint Attack if doubled, I'm fairly certain, but this lack of damage on Talon gives him the time to land a final Metal Claw that fells Norman's ace. This nets us badge number 5, but I can't help but think, perhaps Norman left Mother for this Slacking, but with him gone from this world, Father might return home. Maybe it'll end up as a beautiful moment. With Norman's defeat, we received the Surf HM for our water types, which also lets us traverse Hoenn for more encounters before our next gym battle. Using the received Gold Rod, we're able to fish up a Carvanha on Route 118 that we call Vane. And after being given a legendary Pokemon for free, we box that and explore more to befriend Durian the Tropius on Route 119 and Pandora the Absol on Route 120. We could technically get Corphish right now, but the encounter rate while waiting to rely on fishing would be tedious without the Super Rod, so we will wait out on that one. Also, from this point on, I made a self-challenge to not use Dog. I know other Nuzlockers ban Gyarados for being too strong, so while I won't be banning it for this challenge, I want to see how well I could do it without its immense power. If I do lose too many team members from horrendous plays, I'll have to resort to using Dog, but for now, Silver retires from contest stardom to help us out on our journey, who can now evolve into Seeking thanks to the increased level cap. Next up is Winona and her flying types, who shouldn't be an issue with our electric types and flying resistant Pokemon. She claims she'll be able to still win through Grace, but I think she should be saying Grace as the battle begins, with her sending out Swellow while we unleash Splash, who immediately one-shots her with a Discharge. Splash baits out Altaria due to her Earthquake, though this Altaria is much less of a threat than she was in Emerald. We Volt Switch out into Talon to absorb the attempted Earthquake. This leaves Altaria in range for 2 Rock Tombs that leave her in her resting place, with her Dragon Breath doing minimal damage to Talon while also avoiding paralysis. Pelipper is up next. I switch to Stone on a turn that Pelipper does what Pelipper does best. It never changes, even in 3D. A failed Protect gives us an opening to discharge her for the Oko. Last up is the bulky Skarmory, who is actually able to survive a discharge even without Sturdy. This is making me much more excited for the Light Ball after this gym for the much needed power boost. Anyway, Skarmory responds with a Sand Attack, but Stone rocks her world with a second discharge that feints Skarmory and wins us our 6th gym badge from Winona. Her defeat also grants us a wonderful TM and Roost for Acro and Talon, making them even more tough to bring down. Really looking forward to stalling strats, but I am also looking forward to this Light Ball on Route 120, only available once Winona was beaten. This precious orb will double Stone's attacking stats as long as she remains a Pikachu, which she's kind of forced to, meaning she is going to be hitting like a truck. Let's use this Cacturn as an example. Grass normally beats Electric, but the cool cosplay granting Meteor Mash with Stone's double attack means that each day passes and a spark of life burns out in front of my eyes. I shift in bed thinking about my mistakes, my overconfidence, my ways that affect others, causing turmoil amongst my group of partners. Do they trust me? Or do they have no free will as they visibly see their companions snuffed out one by one due to my arrogance? Maybe they will rightfully turn against me. I would not blame them, but I still wish for the best. But maybe that is for the best. When will it end? So that's my bad. Stone was a bit too brittle for this late into the game, and doubled power stab payback from Cacturn was too much as I put her in unnecessary risk against an optional trainer. Thanks a ton, Street Thug Gomez. And after finally picking up the light ball, I am so deeply sorry, Stone, our Watson Slayer. We must march on though. We have a long way before facing Tate and Liza, which involves some conflicts with Team Aqua and several new victims, friends, to gain. At the Safari Zone, there are 3 different Pokemon we could potentially get. Doduo, Pinsir, and Heracross. Heracross is the ideal pick to get a strong fighting type after losing my previous 2 options. All I need to do is walk around in the area that Heracross is in. There's more of a chance to get Doduo, but they come in the same level ranges, so manipulating it with a repel isn't an option. I'll just have to go for it. Unless I accidentally run into a Horde Doduo after forgetting to put up a repel while trying to even get to Heracross's area. And there goes fighting type option number 3. We don't even use this thing. Pilot the Doduo is going in the box. Once we're done with Mount Pyre, I get jump scared by May, since this battle is mandatory in this remake. We luckily managed to defeat her without losing anyone because we healed, but you can imagine my brief fear into the unknown. Wrecking the Team Aqua hideout is finished next, granting us access to the expansive oceans of Hoenn. I know the whole meme of too much water doesn't come without a base, but the surfing theme makes exploring this entire half of Hoenn so calming. I personally love it a lot, but we do need to rush the Moss Teeth to receive the Super Rod. With this, I am able to capture Corphish much less tediously on Route 117. We call him Grip, but the Super Rod also nets us a Horsey on Route 130 named Murky. We don't actually end up using Murky, nor Grip really, even though we do evolve him for our next gym battle. Readying for Tate and Liza, Pandora and Vayne also join the party, with the latter evolving into Sharpedo. I brute forced this fight back in my first Nuzlocke, and with them only having 2 Pokemon in the remake, that's the method I am going for again. And hopefully this time, I won't lose my Sharpedo. The battle starts with Tate and Liza's Solrock and Lunatone versus Silver and Vayne. Through a combination of super effective Crunch and Waterfall, Solrock goes down as quick as the fight had begun. Silver then takes a Psychic from Lunatone that leaves him at half health and lowers his special defense, but it's nothing to worry about. A single Crunch crumples Lunatone for a very easy win, gaining us our 7th gym badge. This fight felt the most robbed when sticking with Ruby and Sapphire teams, even more so than Watson, but we'll take it. And now Archie is summoning Chaos from Sonic Adventure to drown the world with his drip. Signaled by this beam of light that'll no doubt have an effect on the Magikarp population, we chase after and battle Archie. While I made a rule to ban Mega Evolutions, this is unless the trainer I'm facing is capable of doing it as well. Very few battles utilize them, but I thought it'd be a fair way of including them without making every battle a breeze. Or a seas breeze in this case. Archie leads with his Mightyena while we send out Pandora. Mightyena doesn't have Intimidate, making it a safe lead as we Mega Evolve Pandora into Mega Absol thanks to the Absolite found in the Safari Zone. With her sick new design, we set up a Sword Stance. Mightyena attempts a Scary Face to lower our speed, but thanks to our new Magic Bounce ability, this reflects back onto Mightyena. Because of that, I decided to be a bit greedy and go for another Sword Stance, which goes unpunished as Mightyena misses a takedown. And since Mightyena missed takedown, I take the opportunity to go to +6 attack using another Sword Stance, only taking a minor takedown in return. The next turn, a not very effective Sucker Punch is very effective in defeating Mightyena. Meanwhile, the upcoming Muck gets hacked and slashed to pieces via Psycho Cut. Crobat comes out next, and right here I thought, oh, this is just a full-on swoop for Archie. But no, the Crobat does Haze, making my Sucker Punch not affected and resetting all of my Sword Stances, which I didn't know could happen even with Magic Bounce up. This means I have to switch to be safe. So I go into Splash, who takes an Acrobatics with ease. The contact move ends up biting Crobat in the behind with Static activating. This lets Splash outspeed Crobat with ease and one-shot it with a Discharge. Archie's Sharpedo is last, which he immediately Mega Evolves. However, unlike Pandora, this Mega Evolution is meaningless, thanks to a Volt Switch knocking it out in a single hit. And that's Archie defeated. Maybe he'll learn more on why the power of nature shouldn't be trifled with. Steven would know. He studies these forces properly before possibly thinking of other types of ecological destruction. Steven is responsible. Unlike you, Archie. Would you call this thirsting over Steven? We head off to Sootopolis to take care of this legendary crisis causing primal chaos, where we meet another man after my own heart, Wallace. If I were to place my bets, this is the guy Steven has the hots for, and I can't blame him. A bit jealous, sure, but it's important to know that there are plenty of fish in the sea. Sure, that sea may be as frenzied as whatever Kyogre's cooking up, but I don't know where I'm going with this. Except the Cave of Origin to stop Kyogre. A simple Master Ball should do the trick containing this guy. With Kyogre's defeat, it's a great time to backtrack a bit for various items, like the Ice Beam TM found at Sea Mauville. One of the areas that becomes available to us is New Mauville. The related side quest in it nets us the Thunderbolt TM. Very useful for Wallace. But this is also where I can capture a Magnemite. We name them Bolt, and they then immediately evolve all the way to a Magnezone. They're going to be a mainstay on the team from here on out. This is also our final encounter for this run, but now we have a date with the fantastical water-type trainer Wallace for our final badge. His fancy illusions of water can only distract me so much when he begins to battle with a laughably weak Pokemon like Love Disc. We lead with Splash, who stares at her so hard that she combusts instantaneously. The horrified Wallace then sends out Whiscash. His ground typing is an issue, so we bring in Durian on a mud sport that will weaken future electric type attacks. Durian is our only grass type, another mistake of not picking Trico, but Tropius will still be fine for this battle. I want to stall out the mud sport turns, so we use Fly to strike Whiscash the following turn for good damage. Whiscash lands a feeble Zen Headbutt in return. We repeat this one more time to fully stall out Mudsport. With Whiscash in healing range though, Wallace uses a Hyper Potion, but a Magical Leaf brings him back down to the red. In case Wallace heals again, I do go for the more powerful Leaf Tornado despite its chance to miss. However, Wallace doesn't heal, so the Whiscash gets finished off by a Leaf Tornado. The Ace Milotic comes out next, threatening with Ice Beam. I swap in Silver, who tanks it quite well. We tickle Milotic the next turn with a Horn Attack. Silver manages to dodge a Hydro Pump, so next turn I decide to use Dive to waste her Hydro Pump PP. Dive ends up doing more damage than Horn Attack, while Milotic retaliates with the Hydro Pump. We're still safe to a crit, meaning we can dive once more to get Milotic down to below half health, but more importantly, she is now out of Hydro Pumps. This lets me have an incredibly safe switch to Bolt as Recover comes through. Cell regeneration can be stopped through burning, I assume, so after being unfazed by 2 disarming voices and lowering her special defense with Metal Sound, we fry the Elegant Serpent with a Thunderbolt. Celio is up next, but he stands no chance and falls to a single Thunderbolt. Last up is Seeking. We must defeat this creature so that Silver may unretire from contests, so we remove any competition he may possibly have by annihilating the Seeking with a final Thunderbolt. Rain Dance means nothing here. Good job, team. Wallace's Unfabulous L allows us to receive our final gym badge, meaning it is time to head toward the Pokemon League. Unlike my Emerald attempt, I make sure to avoid any optional trainers, so the way to the end was much simpler than last time. That said, Ace Trainer Hope and her single Frostlass was an unexpected danger. She was just so fast and kept confusing my team. She even took Splash's Overheat. Luckily, some careful switches allowed me to bring out my faster team members to finish her off. This definitely made me more wary for when we'll have to face Glacia though. But as we attempt to exit Victory Road, Wally lies waiting. And man, alright, he's so cool here. This is the ultimate character development, and I realize I might be the antagonist of the story. Either way, I am proud of my boy, but he must still know what the pecking order is. The battle begins with Wally sending out his Altaria against Vayne. Vayne is quick and strong enough to outspeed the Altaria and hit it with a single Ice Beam for the KO. Roselia comes up next, which I respond by swapping to Acro, with the incoming Petal Blizzard doing a whole 8 whopping damage. Acro calls that cute, says watch this, and styles on Roselia so hard with acrobatics that she passes out from awe. Magneton is brought out now, so I switch to Durian on a tri-attack that she takes super well. Magneton then goes for Discharge, leaving us just under half, but we heal back almost a full HP with Roost. On the next turn, Durian is able to take another Discharge. She then strikes with an Earthquake that knocks them down to their sturdy. Durian is in crit range, meaning we have to switch. I go into Bolt, who is able to handle a Flash Cannon from Magneton like they're an older sibling of sorts. Magneton is actually a faster Pokemon than Magnezone, so Bolt takes one last tri-attack before knocking out the little one with Thunderbolt. This random cat Wally found on the street is up next. She does a sad amount of damage with Disarming Voice before we weaken her with Tri-Attack. I want to Volt Switch into a full health team member for Wally's last Pokemon, so after tanking a Feint Attack, we do just that to knock it out. I make the decision to go with Splash. Wally throws out his final Pokemon, Gallade. This guy can Mega Evolve. In other words, that means we're allowed to as well. Using a Magnetite found at Cycling Road, Splash Mega Evolves into Mega Manectric. Wally unleashes his own Mega Evolution in Mega Gallade, but thanks to Splash's ability change, we're able to lower Gallade's attack with Intimidate. We attack the Gallade with a Thunderbolt, which does more than half thanks to a critical hit. Gallade then jump scares me by going for a Swords Dance. In the heat of the moment, I thought a second Thunderbolt wasn't going to kill, so my plan was to Volt Switch and have Talon take an attack. What I would do after that, I don't know, because a Volt Switch is actually enough to finish him off. With Gallade down and out, Wally is defeated, giving us access to the Elite Four. What a cool guy. I do love how they handled Wally in this remake, though I still do wish we fought him more than twice, or at least have him not have a Delcatty on his final team. We all know the rest of his team was carrying that cat through all of those gym battles, but now it's ready for the biggest challenge. Non-stop battles against the Elite Four. This is the part of these challenges where I tend to overthink and over-worry, but I will say, with our great Pokemon selections and variety of types, we stand a great chance of success. I also make sure to EV train and find anything that might be useful for the road ahead. And with that, these are the epic Pokemon partners that I have entrusted in making it through till the very end and become champions. I have grown quite attached to these 6, and I really do think they have what it takes, so let us bring it home. Sydney is first up, and this remake made sure to bump up his levels to be more in line with the rest of the Elite Four. Luckily, we do have an Acro. Sydney sends out his usual Mightyena while we have Bolt out to absorb the Intimidate, though we also need Acro to be in safely. For this, I make sure Bolt is slower, and by equipping a Persian Berry, they can negate its confusion effect to weaken Mightyena for the easy switch with Volt Switch. Fortunately though, the Volt Switch ends up critting the Mightyena and KOing it. Nice! So we bring in Acro while Sydney sends in his Shift Tree. This is due to his extrasensory, but Acro is obviously a much faster Pokemon and is able to one-shot Shift Tree with an Acrobatics. It might be obvious to some, but everyone on my team has an item except for Acro just for the insane power of Acrobatics. The Steamroll pauses for a moment though, for Sydney's Absol comes through. I wasn't sure if Acrobatics would be enough, and didn't want to risk losing Acro to a Psycho Cut, so we used U-Turn instead for another safe switch. Based on the damage though, I think an Acrobatics definitely would have gotten the KO. Even with the super effectiveness of U-Turn taken into account, Acrobatics still does more damage than it on neutral targets. This is still a very safe play of course, as Vayne is brought in to flex off the aforementioned Psycho Cut. I go with Crunch, forgetting Sydney would heal this turn, but the damage is still high enough for Vayne to outspeed and knock out the Absol with a Waterfall on the following turn. The looming stalker that brought Stone to her grave, Cacturn, is here to ruin my day once again. But his moveset makes it a non-issue to swap back to Acro. He just goes for a Spiky Shield anyway. He does so again on the next turn to deal the slightest chip damage to Acro, but it just delays the inevitable, and Acrobatics demolishes the Stone Crusher in one fell swoop. Sharpedo is brought out as Sydney's final Pokemon, but his defenses don't favor him in the slightest, as a U-turn is enough to take him out and win us the battle. That is just the first of the Elite Four. Up next is the ghost-loving dancer, Phoebe. Her team has a lot of coverage and status moves, but there's a way to get around this without breaking a sweat. Phoebe begins with the problematic Pokemon Dusclops while we lead Pandora. Dusclops here has both Confuse Ray and Curse, moves that tend to scare away sweeping strats, but with Pandora's Taunt, which prevents the use of status moves, we shut down any attempts at either. This grants an opening to dance alongside Phoebe, a Swords Dance to be specific, and 2 at that while Pandora receives minimal damage from Shadow Punches. From here on out, it's Pandora's sweep sensation, knocking out the Dusclops, Sableye, Dusknoir, and both of her Bayonet with 1 Night Slash apiece. It's more like they're in pieces. Pretty quick, but Phoebe is defeated. However, before our fight with Glacia, I was suffering from Frostlass trauma from Ace Trainer Hope. I had the guarantee that Vayne could outspeed both of them, so she in particular went through hardcore soccer and boxing for her speed. A shark working out is just what I need. Now I'm ready to take on Glacia, who leads with her first Glalie. I start out with Vayne, who is also decked out with Taunt, which is used on Glalie to prevent him from summoning Hail. We then switch her out for Bolt, as I don't want Vayne to take too much damage early on. Bolt tanks a Crunch, both on the switch and on the next turn very well, before I strike with a surprising move in Magnet Bomb. This was a backup attack in case Hail did end up occurring to deal with the Snowcloak Frostlass, as Magnet Bomb always hits, but it's physical and a bit weak, which lets Glalie hang on. Taunt wears off now, which is actually a mistake. I thought I had one more turn to go back into Vayne to taunt Glalie again once it had ended before finishing him off. Granted, I probably could have just two-shot the Glalie with Vayne, but this was part of that overthinking problem I mentioned having for the Elite Four. Either way, I thought I needed to start stalling, so I switched to Talon, but for some reason Glalie uses Light Screen instead. This means I could have just gone into Vayne without issue, but now it's even more awkward. With nothing else better to do really, I plant a set of spikes to rack up damage on the Pokemon in the back as Glalie finally goes for Hail. However, I did come extra prepared. While Talon takes a crunch like it's nobody's business, we set up a Sunny Day, which Skarmory can learn for some reason. This means I can trade Hails for Sunny Days to dry Glalie out of PP while setting more spikes on the turns he hails. When Light Screen ends, I attempt a switch to Vayne in case he wants to bring it back up instead of hailing. But no, he does hail, so it's back to Talon for more stalling hail PP. This song and dance continues, while healing with Roost when necessary, until a quick Google search on hail revealed a troublesome truth. Sunny Day has 5 PP. Hail apparently has 10. And for reference, Rain Dance has 5 while Sandstorm has 10. For whatever reason, they're not consistent in the slightest for PP, so I need to shift my strategy on the fly. I switch to Vayne while the sun is up just to get rid of the Glalie, and it randomly goes for Crunch instead of Hail. I don't know why Glacia stopped what was working, but on the next turn, that means we're able to take down the Glalie with a waterfall and have the hail gone. Note that I forgot the sun was up, so I'm very glad this waterfall KO'd. The first of the 2 Frostlass comes out next, as this one has a super effective Draining Kiss. However, thanks to Extreme Sports, we ensured that Vayne was faster, knocking it out for free with a Crunch. I'm feeling great right now. That was a lot of pressure that feels alleviated. One of those in Hail I could play around, but 2 of them would have been a hassle. Anyway, Glacia then sends in her Ace Walrein. He doesn't have Hail, so it's incredibly safe to switch Vayne out for Bolt here, who is hit by a gentle Summer Breeze Body Slam instead of a harsh Blizzard. The sun then fades, making Surf from Walrein more potent, but even a crit wouldn't have killed, so we take him out with a Thunderbolt. The second Frostlass comes through, but doesn't threaten to KO Bolt even with a crit. This is because she has Ominous Wind instead of Shadow Ball like the other Frostlass. This one though instead fires off a Confuse Ray, but we came prepared with a held Persian Berry to shake off the confusion. This lets us freely shoot a Flash Cannon that obliterates the Frostlass. Last up is Glacia's other Glalie. He only has Ice Shard and Freeze Dry to attack, meaning it's more than safe to stay in, but he just goes for Hail. Apparently, Glalie didn't get the memo that all of his friends have left this plane of existence, doubly so for the Ghost-type Frostlass duo. Thanks to Glalie's Rock for Brains, we can launch another free Flash Cannon to finish him off, defeating my biggest warrior of the Elite Four without losing anyone. Okay, so now before Drake, just like with Frostlass, I was panicking about the possibility that Vayne wouldn't outspeed Salamence. You know what that means. With a fast as heck boy Vayne, we challenge the Dragon Master Drake, who leads with Altaria. Unfortunately for Drake, we have an Ice Beam user holding Never Melt Ice. You can guess what happens to his Altaria. With no chance to attack, she faints peacefully. Hopefully. Next is a Flygon, but we Ice Beam that and take it out as well. But here comes the Salamence. Are we able to outspeed it here and now? If I don't really have a backup to deal with the rest of these powerhouse dragons, so this could be the end of the run if we fail. We click Ice Beam, and that shark boxer size was worth it, freezing the Salamence into a cold abyss as he returns to his Pokeball. This is fantastic, especially since Drake kindly allows his second Flygon to come in to get Ice Beamed as well. Drake only has Kingdra left, so Vayne's job is done as we swap the Bolt. I did have Volt Switch plans in the off chance Kingdra wasn't last, so there were no worries on how to bring Vayne back onto the battlefield safely. Bolt is hit with a Yawn as they come in though, so after defending against a Surf and nailing a Thunderbolt that leaves Kingdra into yellow, Bolt is put to sleep. But I had the foresight to equip a Chesto Berry to wake up straight away. With the ability to survive another Surf, we do just that and blast a final Thunderbolt to finish the fight against Drake. Nothing could have gone wrong at the end unless there were multiple crits, but we still had plenty of team members in the back to help with the Kingdra. But yeah, that's the Elite Four. Now all that's left is the champion and I... Our eyes locked once again. This time there is no intrigue, just the determination to win. We must face our challenges day by day. And this is just another day. Steven and I in unison, ready our Pokeballs in understanding. This is the final battle for one of us. The fight starts with Steven having Skarmory as his head Pokemon as I lead with old reliable Bolt. Just kidding, I actually forgot to adjust my party before starting the battle. Oops! So I hard switched the Vayne out to Bolt, which lets Skarmory freely set up spikes. A pretty bad start to say the least, because I would love to do this entire Elite Four and Champion deathless, but it's still okay. Even though Skarmory sets up a second layer of spikes, Thunderbolt brings him down to Sturdy. This forces Steven to waste one of his full restores as we strike with another Thunderbolt, which paralyzes and brings him back down to Sturdy again. I take the opportunity to set up a Reflect, but this allows Skarmory to lay a third layer of spikes. This was definitely a misplay, but the next turn we use Volt Switch to finish Skarmory off. I then bring in Vayne, who I think can handle certain matchups here. However, Armaldo comes out next, and we can't one-shot him, so it's a hard switch back to Bolt, who takes an X-Scissor very well. They then are faster than Armaldo and take him out with a Flash Cannon. Bolt's ground weakness has Steven call in his sturdy Aggron, who has Earthquake. We are gonna have to whittle at this bad boy slowly, and who is better for the job than Talon? And for reference, Bolt is actually slower than this Aggron, which is why I didn't Volt Switch and break sturdy that way. The incoming Earthquake means nothing toward Talon as Reflect goes away. Those spikes basically got up for free, so it just makes things needlessly difficult. But for now, a Metal Claw to break sturdy is great, while taking a Stone Edge is not. On the next turn, we heal up basically to full with Roost, which also causes Stone Edge to be not very effective due to losing the flying typing that turn. If Steven predicts this, and hits me with an Earthquake, I will scream. I then decide it's my turn to start stacking spikes, getting up 3 layers while avoiding 2 Stone Edges and a Dragon Claw after the former ran out of PP. The Lax Incense equipped to Talon, which lowers the opponent's accuracy, is really coming in clutch here. Knowing that Bolt is slower, we go for a Rock Tomb to lower Aggron's speed as we take a weak Iron Tail. I then switch straight to Bolt on an Iron Tail that misses. We then outspeed Aggron and fire off a Volt Switch, knocking him out. In Bolt's place, I send in Vayne to bait out the Cradily. With Cradily in place, I swap back to Skarmory on the Giga Drain. This thing does have Ancient Power, but she would need several boosts for it to be a major issue, so we fire off a Steel Wing that will KO Cradily next turn. Unfortunately, she manages to land a Confuse Ray. I say unfortunately, but it's a 100% move that I did not take into account. It won't do much damage due to Talon's high defense, but it's potentially a huge annoyance. And it is. Talon hits himself in Confusion, and Cradily goes for an Ancient Power, which gets to 10% Omni Boost. Unbelievable. So now Talon is unsafe. I switched to Splash on an Ancient Power, which would have surprisingly not have KO'd after a crit, even with all the spikes up. But to beat this Cradily, I have to Mega Evolve earlier than expected, and I have to land a 90% accurate Overheat. Can Mega Splash clutch it out? We Mega Evolve, with me putting my entire faith into my good doggo, and the Overheat connects, which knocks out the scariest Cradily of my life. Steven then brings out his Claydol. They aren't too big of a problem. Switching straight into Talon on an Earth Power allows us to wall this thing pretty well. Using the opportunity to heal up for the Metagross in the back, I use Roost. Claydol does set up a Reflect, but I'm fine with anything that isn't an Earth Power predicting my recovery move. Then, it's an exchange of Rock Tombs / Steel Wings and Extra Sensories as I bring them in range for a teammate to defeat them even with Reflect up. Light Screen is also set up, but that's much less of an issue. After that, I know Claydol will only attack Talon with Extra Sensory, so I have Vayne come in for free, which is also the turn Reflect finishes. Vayne is now more than free to knock out Claydol with a Waterfall. So, here comes the mighty Metagross. The correct play here at the end of this challenge would be to crunch with Vayne to deal as much damage as possible and have her go down for a free switch into Pandora, who could then take out Metagross with a Sucker Punch. But I refuse the easy way. Throughout this challenge, I have gotten better at making favorable situations to not lose Pokemon. Losing Zen and Stone taught me to not be so careless, but when carelessly clicking Crunch and Sucker Punch will win me the run, how will I feel knowing it came at the cost of Vayne's life? Also, Bullet Punch might kill Vayne anyway, and Pandora wouldn't be able to kill Metagross unless some damage is on them, but what I initially said was definitely on my mind the most. Anyway, Vayne, get back in your Pokeball. Talon is here to clutch it out once more for good measure. Even with a Tough Claws Mega Metagross staring us down, he tanks that Giga Impact like a champ. And now, I present to you the most boring way to take out a champion's ace Pokemon. I kid you not that Talon here roosts when in danger and Metal Claws away at Metagross. With them looking to be using moves at random, I am terrified at any switching options I may have, and I am especially hoping that a Meteor Mash attack boost doesn't occur. But Talon has to keep fighting, even using Rock Tombs to lower Metagross' speed. Luckily, early on, I did switch the Splash for the Intimidate drop during a Giga Impact recharge turn. I almost had him attack, forgetting Bullet Punch existed for the second time in a row, but don't worry, I remembered last second. So we instead swap right back to Talon and continue the game of chip damage while being cushioned a bit better now that Metagross has lowered attack. Steven also full restores the metallic Lego monster at one point, and Talon isn't doing so hot on his move's PP. Metagross also finally receives their Meteor Mash attack boost later into this enthralling duel, so that's fun. Just getting past the Intimidate from earlier, very cute, not cool. Luckily, it was right when Talon was out of Roost and low on HP anyway, so we still stalled them the best we could. but now I have to make a risky play here. I still wish to beat this fight with 0 deaths. While having Talon go down for the free switch into the Sucker Punching Pandora would be the correct play, Talon has done so much for me throughout this journey. Everyone on this team has. So, knowing Metagross looks to be choosing their attacks at random, I hard switch the Pandora. If it's Meteor Mash, it would most likely kill her. Giga Impact is out of PP, while Pandora is immune to Zen Headbutt and could take a Bullet Punch. Talon leaves the battlefield and hopes his comrades can survive. Pandora nods while coming out, knowing full well what could possibly happen to her. And Metagross decides to use Bullet Punch and Pandora hangs on easily. My guess for this decision was that the attack boost made Bullet Punch be in range to KO Talon, and it has priority, so Bullet Punch was, funnily, given a priority for being used instead of Meteor Mash. Or it was random and I just lucked out, which is still fine with me. With that all said and done, Talon's Rock Tombs ensure Pandora's Sucker Punch can out-priority another Bullet Punch, so she strikes Metagross with it, finally beating this behemoth down once and for all. And also, Pandora wanted to learn Perish Song, which is very morbid in this situation if you think about it, but this final blow wins us the battle against Steven and the entire run, beating the whole Elite Four and champion with 0 deaths. It's at this moment that I feel a true connection towards Steven. He is impressed, and me, proud of my accomplishments. He may be taken by Wallace, but what we both feel is a mutual respect for each other. Cool. So overall, I thought this was an incredibly fun challenge. I was able to restrict my choices in a way that made me have to think about new ways to win battles, though I still had some great options for Pokemon. In fact, it's crazy how many good options there were, from Skarmory, to Crobat, to Magnezone, and even Gyarados, jeez. Didn't even need Dog to make it through though, and that also makes me happy. Doing it on the first try actually meant a lot considering other times I've tried self-imposed challenges that were simply too tough or tedious to get right, such as Nuzlocke of Grass only in Black and White, or Ice only in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Those experiences of constantly resetting ended up burning me out on doing Nuzlocke for a while, minus a normal Gen 5 Nuzlocke I did finish. That said, those two were because I didn't think of the early game through, while this one clearly had options for beating Roxanne. Didn't utilize those ways by picking Trico to make it a bit easier, but at least there were some leeway for getting past the first gym. And I am even more joyful that we were able to beat Roxanne the way we did, because despite the odds, we still did manage to beat this on our first attempt. This challenge has gotten me stoked to do more Nuzlocke runs, with some thought on beating the early game without a million resets, of course. I have an idea on what's next, but there are so many possibilities. Highly recommend checking out my Twitch in the description to check those Nuzlockes live or as VOD highlights, or subscribe to this channel for more videos like these, along with my usual Pokken tournament content. Thank you for watching. Y'all are sick. And hey, Dad did return home. I guess even Mom is getting a happy ending. That is beautiful. In a cool way.